Welcome to Judson University. I'm Dr. Brenda Buckley Hughes, and it is my pleasure to share with you the faculty perspective of your academic pursuit here at the university. Your life is going to be very full in the upcoming days. You're going to have activities going on campus. You're going to have a life being lived in the dorm. But from your faculty's perspective, you're here for an education. And therefore, we want to share with you what we expect from you and what we hope for you. We have three main purposes in our educational goals. The first is that your faith life will grow, that you'll come to know the Savior and you will live a life that is fully vested in Him. Secondly, that you'll pursue your purpose in life. Each of us is wired differently. You have strengths, you have areas that you have a passion about, you have a variety of pursuits that you would like to follow, and we want to help you in regard to that. And then lastly, your academics. You're here for an education. You're paying a lot of good money for an education, and we're more than happy to give you your money's worth. Well, then how do you do that? How do you move forward with an education? You're here at Judson not just to learn how to do something. You're here to learn how to be something. We want you to live a life that is full and rich in the future. And to do so means you need to begin to understand who are you, what matters in life, and how you can live fully and richly. In order to do that, then, you will need to stop for a moment and begin to study our world as a whole. And you will do that in your general education classes. Now, I know for some people, they think, well, I just want to learn how to do whatever my task is. But statistics tell us that most individuals change careers 5 times in their lives. So if you learn how to do just one thing in college, if that thing ends, you won't have it to do anymore. In the late 1800s, when buggies and horses were all throughout America, there was a factory that made buggy whips. And when the Ford first came out as a car, the person who ran that factory was asked, do you want to continue making buggy whips? Well, what's the whip for? Well, it's to move the horse forward. And he said, I think this car thing is just a fad. It won't last. Horses will always pull buggies. And he kept his factory going, making buggy whips. How many buggies and horses and whips do you see now? None. Because things have changed. Many of the jobs that will exist when you graduate haven't even been created yet. And therefore you as an individual have to be able to bob and weave and think and be flexible. Your general education courses will help you do that. We will work with you to help you to think, to speak, and to write. And if you can do those 3 things, you will be ready for the future that is waiting for you in 4 years when you graduate. In regard to general education, you also have interwoven into that your major. Many of you have already selected your major, and maybe you want to be an architect. Maybe you've chosen English. Maybe you've selected education. Statistics also tell us that students tend to change their major 3 times during the 4 years. It's hard to believe, but it's true. So as you think about your major, really consider what is it that drives you. If you're not sure, you don't need to choose a major until your sophomore year. Take a time, dabble in a few different things, and make a decision. So we have general education, we have your major, then we have a minor. Well, why do you need a minor? It takes 120 hours to graduate, between 45 hours for your general education and 40 to 45 for your major. You still have a number of hours available to you. Why don't you take a minor? If you are going to be a history major, perhaps you should take a communication studies minor. You may end up going into law school. If indeed you are an English person, perhaps you should study history for a minor to understand what takes place in this world as you begin to write and study and prepare. That minor makes you uniquely who you are as you combine your major and your minor. The liberal arts education teaches you how to use numbers, and numbers are a language in and of themselves. They teach you how to use language, how to take words and communicate effectively and well. And also, they teach you how to be a whole person. The person who is the one who goes home after a long day at work And then, what do you do? Well, I only know how to do this thing. Yes, but you have hours and hours at home with family afterwards. What will you do at that point? As you look at the next few years, I think the best thing to think about from the faculty's perspective is that you have a map that you need to follow. Now, your parents would recognize this road atlas. You may never have seen one. A road atlas shows all the roads and all the paths in a state. This is what we used to use when we would travel from place to place, knowing where to go and how to get there. We have given you a road map here at Judson, so you can follow it. Now, I realize you're used to having Siri. Siri will tell you where to go. Turn right at Dunkin' Donuts, turn left at the Burger King, turn north on. Well, that's great if you've got Siri, but when it comes to your academic pursuit, your Siri, I guess, is your advisor. Your advisor will help you know what direction to go to accomplish your purpose. We have a map prepared for you. It's called the 4-year plan. And if you look at that, you'll see for every single semester, every single year, we tell you what classes will get you completed in the 4-year time. Well, yeah, but what if one class isn't offered one semester? No problem. Your advisor will help you swap it with another time. Don't get creative with your 4-year plan. If you're taking one class here and one class there and trying this class, before you know it, you're no longer on the 4-year plan, you're on the 6-year plan because you have so many extra classes that you've put into your schedule. And by doing that, you've just kept yourself from completing what you were trying to do. All right, now that's your roadmap for your 4 years. What about when you're in the classroom? Now, I know for some of you who are athletes, you're involved with the choir, you are busy working, that's how you're going to pay for school. You're starting to wonder, how am I going to get everything done? How will I finish? How will I make sure I get through it all? Good for you. Those are really good questions to ask. The answer is you've got to get really organized. You have to prioritize what is important to you, and then you need to pursue it. So when your professor hands you a syllabus, this is not just for you to doodle on. If they say go to eLearn and in the first folder you'll find your syllabus, you will find in that syllabus day by day what the expectations are of you. What should you have read? What should you have studied? What day are you taking a quiz? When are you giving a speech? All of it is in there. And once you get yourself a calendar, oh yes, get yourself a calendar, and mark out what is due when, your professor will follow that calendar very, very closely. Now, I'm not telling you that that calendar in the syllabus is like the New Testament, that they can't make a change, it's not allowed. No, if indeed in the class somebody doesn't understand, or we find multiple students don't understand, we may slow down. Or if we find everybody knows how to do the equation, they can solve for x, no problem. We're not going to spend extra time on that. Instead, we're going to move forward so that we can accomplish more for you. You have to be organized. If you're not, you will fall behind. And I know it's not just a matter of you're worried about that for yourself. I know you might be concerned because you may be a first-generation college student and your family is just counting on you to go through and be the first college grad. Well, then you have to really be organized. Let your advisor know if you're having difficulties with class. Let your professor know if you're having difficulties with class. We're not offended if you ask us a question or if you don't understand something. We want to help. That's why we're here. We're not just here to stand up and hear our own voices. We're here to know what you need and how we can help you as you move forward. When you come into the classroom, it's very important to be in the moment. When we have a lot of tasks ahead of us, a lot of activities going on, we can start to think ahead and not be in the moment where we are. So as you're in the classroom, I know you might be thinking about football practice or play practice or running to the store to get something because you need to have a snack for the evening. Don't do that. Be where you are and live where you are. So when you walk into class, focus on what the professor is doing. You focus on the people next to you. Introduce yourself to the classmates. Get to know them. You may end up needing to study with them or sharing notes with them. And if you don't know their name, you won't know how to ask or to be a part of a group. That's very important. As you're in the class listening to your professor is sharing what he or she feels is extremely important for you. So if you are absent, don't email your professor and say, "Did you cover anything important?" Because the tendency is for us to say, "No, not at all. I just stood up there and just talked." Don't ask us that. Of course we covered something important. Otherwise, we wouldn't have taken your time or ours. How do you take notes? Well, that depends on you. If you're good at writing down and using words and numbers, do that. If you're good at doodling and drawing pictures of what's being said, do that. If you need to use your notes in different places on the page, then do that. It's what helps you remember what was covered. Your professor is going to talk about what matters. They will place up on PowerPoint what they want you to remember. They may put it up on the board. Anything that they take the time to visualize for you, write it down. If the professor's moving too fast, and we do that at times, let us know. Would you go back to the previous slide? I didn't quite get that. We're not going to be upset. That just tells us you care enough to want to know what we're talking about. Anytime you're given instructions on what to do, focus on that. When you ask a question in class, we're more than happy to answer it, unless we just said what you just asked us about. If we said you'll be giving your speech on Tuesday, don't raise your hand and say, "When am I giving my speech?" Why not? Well, because it means you weren't listening. Your brain was somewhere else. I've suggested you stay in the moment and be very aware of what's going on. But let's be perfectly honest. There are times when we zone out. We suddenly start to think about what happened the day before. We think about how nice the windows look and the leaves are changing colors. We think about what's for lunch, and we don't listen for the moment. How do you ask a professor to repeat what they just said? Well, there are ways to do that. One way is just to own it. Raise your hand and say, "I'm sorry, I was looking out the window, I didn't pay attention, my apologies, would you just please repeat what you just said?" For anybody who hears that from someone, the feeling is, okay, thank you for that. You're not blaming me because you didn't listen, you're accepting ownership. I'm more than happy to repeat what I just said. And actually the beauty of that is somebody else in the class who also zoned for a moment gets the opportunity to hear it again as well. Now, you might be surprised to know that we can tell when you're not paying attention. We can tell when you're on Facebook, on your laptop. We can tell when you're whispering to the person next to you. We can tell when your phone's in your lap and you're texting your friends. Yeah, we're aware of those kinds of things. Why would you want to do that? You're spending a lot of money to be here. And we want you to make sure that every moment you're learning what you need to learn. Now, I'll prepare you for this. You won't like every professor you have. Some professors connect with some students really well, and then not with others. It happens. But they still have something to share with you, and they have something to give you that you truly need to learn. So take the time, take a step back and go, okay, I may not like you, but I do like what you have to teach me, and I appreciate you being here to do that. This is a time in your life where you get to learn and grow. This is a time you're going to look back on and think, oh, I wish I'd read that book. Oh, I wish I'd gone to class. I wish I had learned. My preference would be that you don't wish later on in life. My preference for you would be you remember and say, boy, I sure am glad I got everything out of that class I possibly could. Welcome to Judson University. Your faculty's glad you're here.